Hi, this is Ron Janish. Back in June of last year, went down to Orlando to meet with Felipe and his wonderful brothers and his father, and presented to them the system that we developed for them. And this system is based on very interesting Andrews principles. And what's kind of neat is it just looks for certain things and then spits out the results. So anyway, what happened was back in June of 2015, let's not look at the annual return numbers. I'll tell you how you can skew those, and that's not hard. Uh, what we did was back in June 2015, we delivered to him a system which at the time showed him a good number of winners over losers. Okay, basically over 75 to 25, which was a pretty good number. And that was the important thing in the system. I'm going to show you along the way how you can change some of the other numbers like the calculated annual return and the drawdown. Those are two other things to watch. Okay, so anyway, so we sent that system to them, and one of the important things of after you develop a system that it gives you the results you want a year or so later. Well, right now it's June 2016, and we're going to press the button here and going to have it run the same kind of test. And we'll see what happened during that time period. And this will take about a minute. And one of the things we're going to do at a later point is look at how you can modify in your historical testing what the calculated annual return and drawdown might be. Okay, and why that's really not important. Why that's not important in the test we're doing right now is because we have a pretty good sense of what that's going to be, number one. Number two is what we're really looking at is percentage of winning trades, and we want to see to it that it stays consistent over time. So in other words, after we developed the system back in June, we were all finished and we delivered it. Between June of last year and June of this year, what kind of performance did it show? Because as we know, times change, things change, uh, and if you build a system for anything, for selling hamburgers or whatever, chances are that that changes over time. Then you need to make some updates and modifications, and we probably will at some time. Um, and in a moment, we're going to see what kind of results this got, and then we're going to be able to see it visually with a chart. Okay, so this will be done in a few seconds. Sits on 8 seconds for a while. Here we go, we're going down. Okay, let's take a look at this. Okay, so if we look at the results in terms of percentage of winners, you've got 82% versus 17%, which is nice because that number going up is unusual when you go out into the future. And let's take a look at a chart. So here's a chart. Here was January. It was January through June. Okay, would have been about over here, right about over here. And so June on is this chart here. Now, I told you that calculated annual return and stuff like that in these tests aren't that important, but they're going to get more interesting. I'm going to do one more test that should make it a little more interesting. Okay, and what we're going to do is simply knock this down to 4, and this says max open positions. So it makes the system fairly efficient. We're going to say 24.5, in terms of percent of equity in use at any one time. So in other words, if 2 trades are on, it's using almost 50%. If all 4 trades are on, it's using almost 100%. Okay, and we're going to knock leverage down to 1, which is really nothing. Okay, and we'll let's just look at it from when the system was delivered. Okay, so we'll knock 6 months of time off effectively. And one of the variables with this system is the number of trades you have on at any given time. When I did the initial studies, I showed that I showed you, I set the number real high in order to capture the moments the system has 8 or 9 on versus 1 or 2 on. Okay, so and I used leverage and I did some other percentage stuff. But now we're going to do something that's kind of like this even Steven run, and we should get some interesting results on this. Okay, where we can also look at calculated annual return, and we can look at drawdown, and we're going to look at this without leverage. Okay, and then I'm going to show you how in the last 6 months or so I found a way to tweak it a little bit, because just like selling hamburgers or anything else, things change, and so you make your adjustments and your tweaks. Okay, here we go. Let's take a look, and this would have been calculated annual return 17.29. Remember, that is no leverage. Okay, and 81% winners, good percentage. Okay, and 2.86 on the max system drawdown. That's an important number. Okay, and other people are going to look at numbers like Sharpe ratio, which is 2.33, and profit factor, which is 8.39. Okay, and they're also going to make sure that there's lots of winning trades on both longs and shorts, and you can see that here we have lots of them in both ways. Okay, now we're going to do it one more time, and we're going to upgrade this system a little bit. Going to make a modification that is probably useful for now. Okay. Okay. And what this little modification does, 2 things. One modification increases the value for what I call a fire exit. So in other words, when you put a trade on, you have a stop loss immediately, and that's what I call the fire exit. And it increases that value, and then because that's on a percentage price. And then it also, what this modification I just made also does, is rather than exiting on the close, what it does is it exits the day after and at a certain value or on the close. So we'll see how that works out. Okay. And we have just a few seconds left until we can see what the run is. Okay, so here's the run. Let's take a look and see what kind of numbers it produced. Okay, the calculated annual return was 20.59, and the winner percentage is still up there, and max system drawdown went down to 2.22. Okay, just for grins, if you just bear with me just 1 second, I want to see if I can tweak this just a little bit more. Let's see what happens if I get rid of that next day feature. Okay, some of these tests I do on the fly, so I haven't really done them before. So let's see what happens. Okay, so where is this system available? Real easy. You can do it yourself with the Andrews techniques, number one. Number two, you can contact Felipe, and he's going to be in the process of setting up some kind of business relationship with a company that's a fund manager or something like that. And so this is going to be part of a fund, okay, for managing good amounts of money. The interesting thing here is we're dealing in the forex area, which means that it's typically not manipulated, and like most stocks are, and typically the amount of dollars and cents that you can put on in a position is usually huge. And if you're the kind of person who wants to do this yourself on your own, you want to use the software, not a problem. Just contact me or Felipe, and we'll talk to you about uh, how to be on the ownership side of the software. Okay, so let's take a look and see what happens here. It says 1921. Okay, so a little smaller, and 2.76, so that really doesn't do any good. So far it looks like the best one we've had so far is where we do the exit the next day. Okay, and so I thank you for your time and see you next time.